Okay, can you hear me now? No. Why can't you hear me? That is so strange. Okay, I'm a part of the stream. Okay. I don't know why you can't hear me. Very strange. Huh. I guess. Okay, that is all right. That's correct. Why the hell can't you hear me? I hear you. Denise hears. One person hears me. Oh, Pink here. What the hell happened? I have literally, y'all are not going to believe this. I did my whole live, and then you know how I always present my information, and then I come and have a discussion and talk to you guys, right? So I did my whole discussion, came back over here. You guys didn't hear anything I said. Weird beans. Okay, well, that is so frustrating. Okay, I'm good. It's okay. So I think what I'll do is I'm just going to go ahead and start now. I did hit the live button, but I left and then I came back in. And when I came back in, that's where y'all could hear me. Very strange. Okay. Only 1 minute and 51 seconds. For what? 1 minute and 51 seconds. Oh, for the live. So it didn't connect until I left trying to fix it. Ugh, so frustrating. Well, anyway, please, I apologize, people. I'm really sorry. And of course, I've been sitting here talking for 25 minutes, so I'm kind of frustrated by that too. But that's okay. We can redo it. At least it wasn't like an hour or two like I usually do, right? Yeah, terrible. Okay. So sorry, everybody. Really, really sorry. We'll just start from the beginning, and then when I get finished with this, I'll just edit out all this dead. Oh, but it shouldn't have dead air, right? It shouldn't add dead air. I should only have like 1 minute or whatever. Okay. All right. Fine. Okay. So I'll edit it and try to fix up the beginning of it and everything. So I'm just going to start over. It's going to sound weird, but y'all apologize. I mean, I apologize. So just bear with me, okay? I think I'll go ahead and really start from the beginning and play my music and do everything with my music. Is that okay with y'all? Okay, here we go. Today is Monday, September the 5th, 2022. I'm Jules Dot, and not only is it 2022, but it's 2:22 in the afternoon. I think it's a great omen, people. All right, here we go. All right, so I want to talk today about clearing up some misinformation that has, been put out there in the world during a discussion about Kylie Rodney. So this case is just crazy. I don't mean the people involved. I don't mean like Kylie's a sweetheart, brilliant young lady, terrible tragedy, what's happened with her. Her family is grieving, brokenhearted. I'm talking about the periphery. I'm talking about the people that are making commentary, the people that are interested, the people that are involved. This is one of those Chris Watts things, right? It's just a case and it's just gone crazy. It's just gone. The people interested in it have just gotten so emotionally invested that it's just resulted in these counter narratives that have just gotten wild and wacky. Now, welcome, Pink Lady Luck. Thank you so much for being here. I hope everything is going well. Your dad is adjusting. It's so hard, and I'm so sorry. I know how tough it is. So you are in my prayers and thoughts. Therese Fountain, welcome. Hi, Paula, Bonnie, welcome. Kazo T, welcome, Kazo. Let's see. Roll down here. And DB, welcome. Good to have you. Wonderland, Alice. I feel like the world's turned upside down. Okay. And let's see who else is here. Boop, doop, doop. Lots of people talking and making comments. I sure do appreciate it. Diamond Paw, my friend. How are you doing? Das Vidanya. Big Mama. Big Mama says, being late is rude. Big Mama, are you going to come in here and start trying to do all your momming skills? Critters, my friend, welcome. Who else is here? Oh, allegedly innocent. Can you hear me? Do you hear what I hear? Chris Wallen, welcome. Desire of the Heart. Good to have you, my friend. Tennessee, welcome. Sweet Sativa. Good to have you. Yeah, the birds are out of control. They had to go to the kitchen. Hey, Cinnamon, hot, hot, hot. I think that, no, Marissa's here. Welcome, Marissa. Hi, Denise. Sarah, good to have you. I think is that everybody? Nope. We got Starker Rottweilers. I love Rottweilers. They're beautiful. Alley Cattails, welcome. Hey, Mike, good to have you. Kim S. T. Damron, welcome back. I hope you're having a fabulous day. You look marvelous. Hey, TCE, Muffin Top. Justice Janny, welcome. Thank you for my cartoons. I do love Tinkerbell. Did I say hello to everybody? Mike is here. Lulu Love. I love your name, Lulu. All right. Every time I keep saying we're at the end of the list continues to roll. Oh, well, thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it. Maureen Gunn, welcome. Hey, main girl, glad you're here. Crime Story Junkie. I hope you had a great weekend, Crime Story. The Truth Seeker is here. I got some truths to drop today, Truth Seeker, so welcome. All right. I think I'm at the bottom of there we go. We're ready to roll now. Okay, everybody. All right. Just in case you forget, now, hey, Joseph, is it Joseph? Jacob, welcome. Yo, Jacob, what's shaking? Okay, BBT Boston, welcome. BBT, try hard not to be mean to Pink, okay? You two, I heard y'all's little spat. I didn't believe it for a minute. Y'all did not pull one over on me, but y'all were awesome as usual. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this Kylie Rodney, not the Kylie Rodney story itself, not right now in this video, but about the periphery, the people discussing the Kylie Rodney case. The people discussing the Kylie Rodney case, it's gotten Watts Island crazy. like a bunch of coconuts falling from the tree and hit everybody on top of the head, right? Now, most specifically, I'm speaking about a YouTuber. I've not ever seen his content before. This was new for me. He went on Zav Girl the other night, and I found him to be compelling to watch because he spoke with authority, right? He speaks with great authority. He is a master mechanic, and he is he went up on Zav Girl's panel to correct the misinformation going around about Kylie Rodney's car. Okay, and his name is his YouTube channel name is Psychobabble Rap, or APP, I believe. Psychobabble Rap. And mods, if y'all want to get his link and put it in the chat, that'll be fine. Anyway, so Psychobabble Rap, master mechanic, certified like on 7 different platforms, different makes of cars, and after having a bout of cancer, he's opened up his own mechanic shop at home to keep himself busy. I think he may like build those model ocean schooners. And so just because he's intelligent and is, is really interesting to listen to him, I thought, well, I want to go and listen to more of his content. So I went over to his channel, and it didn't take me long to figure out that I did too, Truth Seeker. Yeah, I absolutely did too. Anyway, so I went over, no, he's not a rapper. But anyway, so I went over to his channel, Psychobabble Rap. I went over to his channel and watched maybe 3 or 4 of his videos. And it doesn't take long to figure out he's over all of this crazy conspiracy theory. Kylie Rodney is a different girl, and Kylie Rodney's, or Brian, what is it? Brian Laundrie's dad. No. Brian Laundrie is Kylie Rodney's dad. I mean, we've gone down the rabbit hole. Wonderland Alice, we need you to give us the red pill. You know what I mean? So the rabbit hole has opened up, and now these crazy true. I mean, this is back now to the whole Alex Jones type of conspiratorial ideas. But can we? Wonderland lost the red pill. That's too bad, Alice. We sure could use it. Okay, Faraway Downs. Okay, hello, Sundown Farm. So there are so many people now that have gotten so fully invested with the Kylie Rodney story that things now are taking on a Watts Island feel, and there's so many full narratives that are being put out, and it's just getting weird, right? And so Psychobabble Rap, he corrected the information on the car, which was greatly appreciated. And then he takes on Ryan Upchurch. Yeah, there's a surprise, right? Okay. So he takes on a position of sort of challenging Ryan Upchurch. He's critical of some of Church's ideas, opinions, stories, whatever you want to call it, slander, whatever you want to call it. He takes issue with that. He's fairly direct. I would say he's very direct about disagreeing with the storyline that's happening, and he then goes on and talks about the people supporting Ryan, and he's very angry at the people who are supporting Ryan. So Right, Cinnamon? So, Psychobabble Rap, he's angry about the things that Ryan is doing. And he says, he basically says that, everybody is supporting Ryan Upchurch simply because he is a celebrity, that they are allowing Ryan Upchurch to get away with things that they wouldn't allow other people to get away with, but because of his celebrity, he's able to say and do these crazy things. And so he says it's about Ryan, but then when he starts going after the people that are supporting Ryan, then he's really harsh. He's calling them idiots and morons, and name it reduced from an intelligent conversation down to a very emotional conversation. And then I sort of smiled to myself because I said, you know what, Self? Psychobabble Rap is doing exactly what he's complaining about. And that is, he's being fairly gentle with Ryan Upchurch, with his critique of Ryan Upchurch. He's a bit more gentle, but when he gets down to the masses that are supporting Ryan Upchurch, well, then he really lets loose on them, and he's using name calling, and all that. Oh, I haven't seen it, Callie. Oh, when I finish this, I'll have to go over there. Y'all don't leave. Y'all wait and stay with me, and then we'll go over there and watch the Psychobabble Rap together. Okay, please don't leave and go over there. That's not very nice. Okay, so anyway, so he's doing exactly what he's accusing Ryan's supporters of doing, and I thought that was kind of amusing. But the main thing that made me decide to do a live on this, the main thing that made me decide to do a live was that he involved mental illness into his critique and rant. And so just like he felt compelled to correct the misinformation related to the car because he's a mechanic, I felt a bit compelled to correct the information related to mental illness because I am an expert. Just like he's an expert in mechanics, I'm an expert in mental illness. See, y'all, I've been telling y'all I was crazy. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so anyway, so he comes up with this narrative, and he begins to say, that he thought that Ryan Upchurch was paranoid schizophrenic, that he thought that Ryan Upchurch was, that what we were seeing was the beginning of paranoid schizophrenia. And then he relates it to something in his own life. I believe it was his cousin. I think he said he's got a cousin who was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia in his 30s, and that's where he, got his information. Well, first of all, paranoid schizophrenia, that is the Queen Mother Mary of all mental illness. Like, it's the big one. It's the one that says your brain is on tilt. There's nothing there that is in the range of normality. And because all of the neurotransmitters and hormones are disrupted, you're getting a full onslaught of physical symptoms, emotional symptoms, and cognition disruption. So it's the whole person that is impacted. In something like depression, you've got a mood disorder. It's just an emotional illness. If you develop something like Parkinson's, then you're having your motor function is disrupted. If you have oppositional defiant disorder, well, you probably do have a mood disorder too, but behaviorally you're acting out, and pushing the lines. If you have a stroke, then you're having a disruption in cognition. But with paranoid schizophrenia, you get the whole ball of wax. It's it's global dysfunction. It's the big one. Okay. Now, The curious thing is, first of all, Ryan's age, okay? And secondly, when Psychobabble starts talking about how his cousin was, developed paranoid schizophrenia in his 30s, and I thought, no, that's not true. Maybe he had really well organized schizophrenia and he was able to hide it from people. And then finally, when he got put in jail and they had 24-hour surveillance on him, and then they figured out, wait a minute, he's covering up all this crazy, symptoms. Maybe that might explain how somebody in their late 30s would be diagnosed with schizophrenia. But the truth is, especially men, the male brain, boys are going to be diagnosed before 21. Right now, typically you're going to get the first diagnosis 15, 16, 17 years old. They diagnose early. It comes out quickly. Testosterone could be a part of as a like a moderating type of or a mediating type of variable. Testosterone might be there like as a catalyst, but with women, females can generally get into their later 20s and early 30s for women, but men, it's their boy. I mean, they're kids. So there is a period of development. The person has schizophrenia, but there's a period of development, and it's called prodromal schizophrenia. And prodromal simply means that it's in the period of escalation. Affect is beginning to demonstrate negative signs. And what that means is the facial muscles are less reactive to whatever emotion or thought the person is having. And so they look like they're wearing a mask, more or less. You begin to get, when the kid's 13, 14, 15 years old, you begin to get some unusual ideas like, let me think of an example. If I touch my toothbrush 3 times, then I don't have to eat the rest of the day. That's an actual statement that was made from a paranoid schizophrenic who was prodromal. He's a young guy, but family was beginning to notice something wasn't. They couldn't put their finger on it, but he was definitely not the same child that they were used to. And that was one of the first statements to sort of make them go, what? What are you talking about? If I touch my toothbrush 3 times and I don't have to eat the rest of the day? So during the prodromal period, you get mood disruption, and it's not just negative symptom. The mood disruption can be where they show very little emotion for quite a while, and then suddenly, they're giggling and they're laughing, and the parents are like, well, is he smoking weed? Like, why is it he sits around, he's all depressed and mopey for days and days, and then suddenly we spend 12 hours of just giggling and laughing and no type of real rational type of conversation. Episodes of intense anger followed by lethargy and movement. So you've got to recognize that when they hit, for the guys, especially when they hit puberty, things, the brain, the chemicals in the brain just go wonky. The whole thing goes nuts. And so presentation changes. The kid is just so different. And yet the parents don't know what it is. They can't put their finger on in the beginning. They can't put their finger on what's happening with this kid, but eventually you get that flat affect. There's nothing happening there. And then they'll tell you, well, when I go to bed at night, I'm planning how I'm going to kill my whole family. Or before I went to bed last night, I watched a Styx concert in the clouds. Nothing showing on the face, like no emotion on the face, just these bizarre statements that have no basis in reality, and there's no corresponding emotion. They lose sight of their hygiene. They don't recognize how their behavior or their physical condition, how it's affecting other people. They don't notice how people react to them. Very often they will draw pictures of something, a focal point. I'm talking about a visual focal point, but then everything else on the paper is gray. And there are some researchers that have posited that this is that they develop sort of a tunnel vision type. So there's that perceptual distortion that is part of the global breakdown neurologically, where they'll develop a tunnel vision. So they're only seeing directly what's in front of them, but they're really not seeing, they lose their peripheral sight. They're really not seeing everybody that's in the room and how people are responding. And so because of that, then you can certainly understand how they can develop a very focused pinpoint level of interest that can look like catatonia in the beginning. So again, let me reiterate, with girls, we might, notice how I'm being very hesitant about this. You would expect 9 times out of 10, a female will be diagnosed before she turns 30. Generally, anytime between 16 and 25, a female is going to have that diagnosis. Her presentation is fairly stereotypical. It's on time, and doctors know it when they see it. Right? I'm not talking about the prodromal period. I'm talking about full-blown schizophrenia. With the guys, it's so much earlier. It's so much earlier. They're prodromal sometimes before they ever even turn 13. And parents think that they're just, turning, that they're having like melancholic depression. Some kids present, they get an autism, a late autism diagnosis, but they'll get that prodromal development sometime as puberty is really kicking in, and you got a diagnosis by the time they're 16, 17, 18 years old. It just is. And again, there's research, is testosterone at the heart of some of this. There's no way to know, but the guys, they get it pretty quick. So I think rather than looking at a 30, 35-year-old guy who's, got 5 platinum albums, who's performing at concerts, every weekend and writing songs that tear your heartstrings, looking at that, pointing fingers and saying, that's paranoid schizophrenia, you don't really understand paranoid schizophrenia. Aidan Clune, is it Clune, right? Aidan Clune. His mother, the description that she gave in the weeks and months she actually went back months because there was disruption in employment and some very unusual ideas. He was very gifted musically. That is common to hear with people the boys that develop schizophrenia. The progression she describes, and I'm not diagnosing. I have never seen Aidan in my life. I've never spoken with him. I've never questioned him. I've never spoken with his mother. I'm simply going by what I read in the newspaper and what I saw in video. So my haters, I'm not diagnosing. I'm discussing what it looks like. The description that Aidan's mother gives in the months leading up to his disappearance, and then his final behavior in the couple of days that they last knew his location, that is stereotypical schizophrenia. That is what you would expect. What she described in the months leading up, and then finally him getting a text message and saying, oh, I've got to leave, stay safe, and then getting all focused on the lock on the door and getting up to check it, being questioning, what is somebody on the other side going to get me, and then getting in his car, going and picking up his uncle and trying to drive away with his uncle. And then you end up with him out in the desert. He's putting his shoes on. He's taking his shoes off. He's running from tree to tree or brush to brush in a zigzag pattern. That right there, the chaos, the irrational, illogical words and decisions and action, that is what schizophrenia looks like. Him having these jobs, believing that people were trying to hurt him or trying to sabotage him, not being able to keep a job longer than a couple of days, and then trying to go for another job, and then changing friendships, having really good friends and then accusing them and trying to stab them in the back, but then perfect strangers they would give all their trust into. That is prodromal type of expected stuff. Him calling his mom saying, read me a bedtime story. Hell, I believe, it's my belief, this kid was just trying to stay connected to the real world. Things were just, his brain was just like a pinball machine, and he was just trying, he could feel it all slipping away, and he was just trying to stay grounded. And by hearing his mom's voice, listening to the story that he'd known, his whole life, that was giving him, a sense of continuity and a sense of safety. But by the time he ended up out there in that desert, and he was just running like a jackrabbit from brush to brush, taking his shoes on and off, at that point, there's no way of knowing what was happening in terms of his brain, what he was being told that he was facing or experiencing. We don't know. What he clearly thought something was after him, but there's no way of knowing what it was. It could have been driven by a movie he saw at some point in his life where he thought, oh, I wonder what it'd be like to be, a soldier. He could have been having hallucinations that he was in battle and someone, the other soldiers, other army was after him. He could have thought that there were giant rabbits after him trying to kill him. There's just no way of knowing, because I believe by that time he had finally made that leap from that prodromal period where he's making a little bit of sense. He's still able to sort of do normal daily things, although there's obviously a mood problem developing, to that leap of full-blown psychosis and just not really being in touch with a logical thought. So that is what you would expect to see, and it's really we're entering into dangerous territory culturally. We're entering into dangerous territory when we take somebody who just has a different opinion than you do. They have a different opinion. They have a vivid imagination. You could even call them brilliant in terms of their ability to use words to tell a story. That is the way that his brain works. If his brain didn't do that naturally, you would not get the lyrics that a Ryan Upchurch song has. You can't, you can't get the fish without the bones. You know what I mean? So he's brilliant in terms of being able to be a storyteller with very limited words, using words that are pleasant and carry a great deal of meaning. But that brilliance is that skill of use of words and imagination is going to spill over into anything that he focuses on. If he's already predisposed to believe in the whole Illuminati, deep state, one new world order kind of narrative, Well, then it would be easy to look at this Kylie Rodney disappearance or the Uvalde school shooting. It would be very easy to look at those two situations and go, damn, something definitely not right here. They're messing with us again. This is Sandy Hook 2.0. You know, that's just the way the brain is. It's a way, it is what it is. Some of us are gifted musically, some of us are gifted semantically, some of us are gifted athletically. It's just who we are. It's just the way we come in and the genetic endowment provided to us by our forefathers. So where we get in trouble here, and this is why I say this really needed to be talked about, is because people end up with different opinions and they get combative, right? If somebody comes up with an idea that you don't like, then you reduce them by beginning to call them names: stupid, idiots, morons, criminal, fraud. Yeah. We went from you're a paranoid schizophrenic to you're intentionally committing fraud by trying to get people to come to your channel and sell your music. I'm sorry, Psychobabble Rap. Ryan Upchurch has got 5 platinum albums, a conspiracy story about a young lady's disappearance that, let's face it, it's strange, isn't going to sell not one album that he hasn't already sold. Upchurch is very successful. He's done it in a Kid Rock, unconventional way. And his fan base is golden. They're not going anywhere. So you can't, just because someone has an idea that you don't like, has some ideas that don't fit with what you think the world ought to be, it is not appropriate to use mental illness or to accuse people of being, intentional fraudsters to try to explain their behavior away. Did it ever occur to you that this could just be Ryan Upchurch, the way he interacts with the world? This is what he sees. This is the way his brain thinks. He's a skeptic. He doesn't trust things that look unusual. He doesn't look at a coincidence and say, ooh, there's a coincidence. It's just not there. It's just not the way his mind works. Is it offensive? Hell yes, it's offensive to tell a family that's just lost a 16-year-old high, beautiful girl with such a huge potential for her future. They've lost her, they're in grief, and they need to be protected. It's offensive to say they're not real. Their grief is real. I mean, they're in it as deep as they can be in it. But it doesn't make it right to accuse people of mental illness and, criminal activity. Now, some of you are going to say, oh, but you're doing just what you're saying. You're doing just what you're saying you shouldn't be doing. No, not really. Let me think of an example here. Amber Heard. Everybody knows the Amber Heard case. So the charges, part of the charges were, and this was from Adam Waldman, part of the charges were that not only did Amber Heard lie about Johnny Depp and try to extort money and ruin his reputation, all that, but that it was a conspiracy to defraud Johnny Depp. That Amber Heard and her friends together, over a period starting about 3, 4, 5 years, they set Johnny Depp up. They were patient and they were measured, and it was a well-defined and organized plan to set him up and steal his millions, right? Well, Adam Waldman, who is a Washington, D.C., Virginia, very successful attorney. He was convinced of this conspiracy charge. He was absolutely convinced. He went around trying to get police departments, detectives, to investigate it, that what she had done from a criminal point of view. That's how convinced he was that she and her four friends engaged in criminal activity to steal the money of Johnny Depp. And I think, to further his idea that once that plan failed, then she was, furious, and she simply wanted to destroy him. Well, what actually got into the courtroom was the "I'm so mad at you, I'm going to destroy you" part. And the jury, they bought that hook, line, and sinker all the way across the board. The one charge that they balked on, the one charge that ended up going to Amber, was the idea that it was a conspiracy, that they had planned it and done it, over time. So you can have ideas about people and the nefarious reasons they may do it, or you can just describe the nefarious behavior. And so I think describing the things you don't like is fine. I think describing what they're doing that you don't like and how they're doing it that you don't like. But I think where we get into real danger is when we're talking about why they're doing what they're doing. Right? And if you're being a fortune teller, one of the biggest cognitive distortions that we can make, if you were playing fortune teller or mind reader, and you're listening to Ryan Upchurch put out his ideas and his theories and what happened, and all that, if you're listening to all that and you're going, this is hogwash, you're hurting this family. When you're comparing photos from one girl to another girl, not only are you hurting Kylie, Rodney's family, but you're also hurting the other girl you're comparing to, who's alive and well somewhere in California. So you're hurting them. You have to quit. But when you start saying, oh, well, you did that because you are paranoid schizophrenic. You did that because you are a criminal and you are engaging in fraud. Well, at that point now, you've opened yourself up to slander, right? So I wanted to correct the information on schizophrenia and the prodromal period and what you would expect to see. In girls, you might get girls into their late 20s and maybe 30, 31 and get a diagnosis. Boys, you are talking diagnosis in their late teens to the early 20, and I'm talking about 21, maybe 22 tops. There are physiological reasons for that, and it is predictive. It is predictive. So to say that a 30, I don't know how old Ryan Upchurch is, between 30, 35, he's not showing paranoid schizophrenia. And you say, well, my cousin, and my response would be, well, but probably your cousin was having symptoms many years before he finally got to jail, and they were watching him 24 hours a day, and they said, okay, he is having some disorganization, and he's really good at covering it up. I'm on board with that scenario. It's unlikely, but it could happen. But for Ryan Upchurch specifically, where's the prodromal period? You're telling me that this 30, 35-year-old man just woke up one day and boop, he didn't get enough sleep and suddenly he's a paranoid schizophrenic. No, can't happen. That's not True. It's not, I wouldn't even say it's brief psychotic disorder. He's performing, he's putting out product. His product is brilliant. He's got friendships that he's had for years and years and years. No, it's impossible. And then you said the next one is, he's doing it on purpose, because he's purposefully trying to get people to come to his channel, and then he's going to sell more records. He's 5 platinum albums. He's going nowhere. So I don't know. I'll tell you another problem that I'm having with Psychobabble. I listened to his area of expertise. I don't know how much you guys want to know about schizophrenia. I just wanted to correct that about the age. Let me get back over here. Let's see. Oh yeah, and okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, and so I think that's a really great point. Hey, John Courtney, welcome. Here's another really great point. Okay, I just finished watching the Alex Jones debacle. Okay, now Alex Jones did this whole rabbit hole related to Sandy Hook. Remember? He, to the tune of $50 million judgment against Alex Jones. Now, Alex Jones has the money. Okay, he's got the money to cover that. I know, it's obscene, isn't it? It's terrible. Well, I mean, I guess it's great if you're Alex Jones, but for the rest of us working saps, okay, 50 million between, punitive reward and all that. 50 million. So that Mo's bringing up another side of the coin, right? And that is, slander is a real thing. Now, if you take me to jail, or not to jail, to court, to say that I slandered you, I may get, some rewards, in the thousands or whatever. Upchurch has got stuff to lose. He's got plenty of money to lose. So is it wise for Ryan Upchurch to be doing what he's doing? No, it is not wise. Do I relate? Okay, so let me see how to say this. In Critters and some of the other people in here that we've been friends a long time, people can't. Now, this is important. People cannot be wearing their professional hat 24 hours a day. It's uncomfortable. The most brilliant surgeon, okay? The most brilliant surgeon, the most brilliant rocket scientist, the most professional person ever that you can imagine has to have some time to not be a surgeon, to not be brilliant, to just be human. It's necessary to keep perspective. It's necessary to be human for some period of time each day. You've got to be able to laugh. You've got to be able to get some exercise. You've got to be able to have some discussions not related to whatever your area of expertise is. It's tiresome to have people constantly relating to you as whatever expert you are in whatever field you are. It's tiresome. Isolated. That's the best way that I can describe it. It's an isolating experience to not ever be able to be yourself, separate from whatever your area of knowledge is. You feel isolated. So you're left with having authentic relationships with people that are in your family or friends that have known you before you developed your area of expertise. You get isolated. You become known by whatever your field is, and then you never get to be yourself again. Now, if you happen to be, let's say, a judge, if you happen to be someone who people have a preconceived idea of the way you're supposed to behave, a judge will be very solemn, and a judge will be, very thoughtful and brilliant and unmoving and stoic. But in real life, that judge only wanted to be a stand-up comedian. That judge wanted to be a stand-up comedian, but because he came from a family, a long line of judges, and his family foreclosed on his, vocational exploration, and he grew up his whole life, you're going to be a judge, you're going to be a judge, you're going to be a judge, you're going to be a judge. He had to be a judge. So now here he sits, the big, bold, wise, stoic judge in his black robes. And he's sitting here and he's casting judgment and sentencing people to basically what amounts to the ends of their natural lives. And he's sitting there, he's making all these judgments, and inside he's thinking, holy hell, I am miserable. Just show me the way to the comedy club and give me a beer, right? You think I'm kidding. I'm telling you, I'm preaching truth right now, okay? So people get weary of being only their expertise. They get weary of it. They want to be themselves at some point. The same thing that they spend years and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars investing to become expert, to achieve the thing that they actually want, ultimately that becomes one of their great burdens. So if you don't have a large family, or you've moved away from your closest friends that knew you before, then everyone in your life is going to expect you to walk in being that bold, stoic, wise judge. And really, you just want to tell a dirty joke. You just want to go out to dinner and eat something unhealthy and be goofy and have some fun, and then, put your robe on and go back and be the big wise judge. So it's wearisome at times, right? Now put yourself in the shoes of a celebrity, someone that everyone knows. And because you've got 5 platinum albums and you've got all this money and you've got all this access to anything you could ever want, suddenly everyone wants to be your friend. Everyone. You're 30 years old. You couldn't fight yourself out of a wet paper bag if you had to. And you've got 50, 60-year-old attorneys and doctors and people with wise people slobbering, trying to be your friend. And you're going, hey, man, I just play the guitar. I don't know why you're acting like I'm all that. I'm just playing the guitar. I make music. I write songs. I love it. I'm good at it. I'll continue to do it. But can't I be something other than a musician? Can't I be a part of just the general public and just put my goofy, dumb ideas out there with everybody else's goofy, dumb ideas? So I think it's unfair, psychobabble, rap. And you're a wise guy. I don't mean a wise guy. You're a wise older gentleman. Okay. You've been around the block. You've lived, you've experienced challenges. You've figured your way through this cruel, unforgiving world, right? You're being disingenuous to hold this kid to a bit of a different standard. You were a bit tender in judging him, but you went hard after his supporters, his subscribers. And the whole thing, I'm just sitting here going, wait a minute. If he was not Ryan Upchurch, if he was Joe Blow, nobody knew him from Adam's House Cat. He's just some dude on the internet putting out ideas about, how do we answer we got a very unusual case, the disappearance of this young girl, and all her friends are sketchy and being weird, and the cops are being sketchy and being weird, and the information coming out, about the car and the discovery, it's all sketchy and weird. Everybody and their mama is sitting around the table talking about, ooh, what do you think happened? Well, here's what I think happened. Ooh, what do you think this is? Oh, I think it's the New World Order. I think it's the Illuminati. I think they were MK altering us. Whatever, it's what people do. Come on. If he wasn't Ryan Upchurch, you wouldn't have a problem in the world with what he was saying. That's the truth. I don't care what you have to say. If he was not a celebrity, you would not care what he was saying. So, I'm just, all of that, you just can't take someone who's doing what everybody else is doing and then say, oh, he's paranoid schizophrenic. Yeah, that's what's wrong with him. He's paranoid schizophrenic. Oh, no. This is criminal fraud. Ryan Upchurch is committing criminal fraud. You're sitting around worried about some attorney coming after Ryan? You want to know something? You've just opened yourself wide open to slander. If Upchurch wants to come for you, you've just laid out the golden red carpet for him. Now, all right. Hey, Doctora. Yeah, there's a lot of enabling going on, Truth Seeker. There's a lot of enabling going on. I think if he were not Ryan Upchurch, more people would say, hey, dial it back. You're getting a little bit weird here. I think there would be a balance, right? But at this point, bad behavior doesn't help bad behavior. That's truth. It just doesn't. I'm going to say the same. There's a creator. It's got a fairly small, modest channel, who does the same kind of thing, judgmental thing. And she has a fairly rigid way of looking at the world, right? So she's got some black and white thinking, right or wrong thinking. And so because she has a very narrowly defined belief system that things are either right or they're wrong, she doesn't have any tolerance for middle ground gray, right? Because of that, it very often turns into these campaigns, right? These crusades. Well, this creator is saying something and I don't like it, and I'm going to use my community to have this creator taken down. That person can't talk about Chris Watts. That person can't talk about Shanann Watts. That person can't discuss those topics. We're going to take them down. And then this crusade develops. And so the lesson is, oh, well, if you're going to have an opinion on YouTube, if you're going to put out your ideas on YouTube, you better make sure that it aligns with this person's opinion, or you could be, under attack and have your channel taken away from you. I just think it's dangerous type of precedent. I think there's something to be said for watch the things that you enjoy, watch the things that you support, and do not watch the things you don't support. If you don't give the view time, if you don't give the minutes to the people that are saying things that you disagree with, or the things that you don't, you find obnoxious or rude or whatever, then the punishment or reward is there. A creator is not going to spend a lot of time talking about things and doing things that nobody's going to watch. That goes against why they're, on YouTube. So the hate watching turns into this weird kind of upside down world where you're going and watching this person's outrageous, obnoxious behavior, but you're rewarding it, which increases the likelihood of that obnoxious and rude behavior of occurring again sometime in the future. So if you don't like something, then pull back and don't watch it. The lack of views is the punishment that will create the change in behavior. But because of the algorithm that YouTube is using, the algorithm is actually rewarding bad behavior rather than empowering good content. Make sense? All right. I know, it's crazy. All right, let me see what people are saying. Yes, if you don't agree or you don't like it, why are you there watching? Jacob, that is something that I have grappled with since the beginning of this whole YouTube thing. I don't understand hate watching. Now, I'm going to be honest, and I've owned it a couple of times when I have done the whole hate watching thing. Sometimes people are bizarre. Would y'all agree? Sometimes people are a little, sometimes they're a lot over the top. Sometimes they're on YouTube and they're doing things that are just so far outside of expected human behavior that there's almost like this gruesome attraction. You want to go watch to see, what kind of train wreck you're going to see tonight, right? But how long do you sit and watch going, oh, well, clearly there's not going to be a train wreck tonight before you leave? So you think that creator doesn't figure that out? So then you get creators who are so hungry to be famous on YouTube or to make money on YouTube that they pretty well get shaped, their behavior gets shaped into a really offensive and crazy creator, creating content that's just so unusual and off the wall. And the more unusual and off the wall, the more views, until it finally gets so bad that they lose their channel. We saw a huge channel lose for terms of service problems. Ryan Upchurch, y'all watch. He's going to be the next one to lose his channel if he doesn't tamp things down a little bit. If he doesn't get himself under control, his channel is going to disappear. We've seen it before. You know what I mean? It is heartbreaking. My mother was very strong before paranoid schizophrenia. My sister and I had to grow up fast and roles reversed. I'm so sorry, Becky. It is a very, very difficult condition. Offensive on how many levels, Yvette? MFW. There you go, Cinnamon. There you go. Perfect example, right? The more ostentatious behavior got the biggest views. She figured that out, and then YouTube pulled the rug out from underneath her. I don't think I think they had let that crazy behavior go on for so long that she never believed that they would put an end to it. Yep. Same thing, Alley Cattails. Running around, chose this random person on Twitter to say, oh, look, you're Brian Laundrie. and then was going live trying to prove to everybody that this random guy was Brian Laundrie. And finally YouTube stepped in and said, you can't do that. You're putting people in danger. You're putting people's addresses out there. It's putting people in danger. This other creator I was talking about a minute ago, who goes on these crusades against other creators because they're not acting the way she thinks people should act. She's notorious for getting mad at another creator and then blasting their names, their locations, their professions, go in real life and calling licensing boards. Notorious for it. The crazier the live is, the more people go and watch. She gets rewarded for that. YouTube just lets it go on until somebody reports her, says you just doxed me, and then she goes on her best behavior until her time is up, and then she goes back being crazy again. Can you talk about things that can make your thinking bizarre that is not mental illness, sleep depression, grief, worry, anxiety? Sure, absolutely, 100%. So sleep deprivation is a really interesting one, and that they know a great deal. Yeah, drama sells, Mo, 100%. Yes. That you can be having a perfectly normal life, no drama, everything fine, correct? And then you start an argument, and how long does it take for the chat to fill up? You don't believe me? Go watch Zav Girl. A couple of nights ago, they're just clicking along, nice and easy, horse and buggy speed, no problems, everybody's fine. One chick comes in, turns everything upside down, and her live chat was scrolling so fast you couldn't even see the words. I don't know how the information spreads. I don't know how people find out about it. But man, it didn't take 5 minutes. 5 minutes after the argument started, it was chaos in that chat. Chaos. So, YouTube, you've got psychologists working, you've got behavioral people working for you. You do. This is so unethical. Whoever you are, this is so unethical. You should quit. You should be rewarding the content that's interesting and fun and worthwhile. And when all of this drama stuff, the screaming and yelling starts, the cursing starts, you guys should freeze that stream immediately. You do that a couple of times and all this other trash just clears out. It'll just clear out. They're only doing it because it's getting those big views. That I know it in my heart. All right. So other things that can create, should we say dysregulated behavior? No, I don't want to say dysregulated behavior. Chaos. Other factors that would create chaos. How's that? Lack of sleep is an interesting one. And the reason that I think that it is very interesting is because it's well researched. And maybe Dr. Latina might want to come up and talk about this. But it's interesting because it's well researched. First of all, in the Air Force, I'm sure Army as well, but most of the research that I've read was Air Force research because pilots. It's important for the armed forces to know what pilots are able to do, what their limitations are when the physical deficiency needs begin to break down. So you want your pilots to be at optimal level, and then they manipulate various variables to see at what point a pilot's abilities begin to degrade. So they challenge them, they limit on sleep, how much sleep, they limit food, they can, there's one interesting project where they had loud music that was playing in the cockpit that they couldn't get away from. That is a really good way to disrupt a pilot's reflexes and skill. Fascinating. This would be more in Dr. Latina's wheelhouse, but you can have breakdown in liver or kidney function that can create psychosis, symptoms of psychosis. I don't know. Dr. Latina, you want to come up and talk? Okay, good. We need Dr. Latina. See, this is why we need Dr. Latina here. Copy. I'm about to drop the link. Dr. Witta. Paste. Okay, there you go. I got to put my headphones on. Yay! I love Dr. Latina. Okay, so y'all get ready because this conversation is about to get interesting. You know what I mean? This is fascinating how the physical body can get ill and demonstrate mental illness. It's fascinating. Welcome, Dr. Latina.
Hi, gosh. Thank you so much for inviting me to come up. It's such an honor.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that you accepted. How are you today?
Good. I listened to you. I have to backpedal for 1 minute. Excuse me, if I might.
Sure, absolutely.
So I think it was last night, but I don't know, man. I've been listening to you several nights in a row. And then you had the cartoon of the upside down car, and then you replayed that upside down car.
I'm so embarrassed.
No, because wait,
so
you were a little. Wait, you. I have to tell you, you were a little intense, but you're like, how? And I'm thinking, I need help. I need what I always call the goo goo gaga approach in certain areas. I am not visually spatial. Yeah. And as my ex-husband used to always say, Amy is, wait a minute. I would say, well, I'm not spatial, like that. And he goes, oh yes, you're very spatial. You're very spatial. And I'm like, that's rude. But I'm like, yeah, you obviously didn't think I was.
I think you're spatial. I do.
I feel so spatial. But let me tell you something. I literally was tickled to death. I mean, you were intense, but I was like, I'm going to forget her intensity. And you're like, look, the car is in the air, but it's supposed to be in the water. And I'm going, uh-huh. And then you're like, pretend it's in the water. I'm like, uh-huh. But it was the goo goo gaga approach. And I got it. I really did get it.
Well, it took 2 or 3 days for me to get intense.
That's all right.
I didn't really understand why people were not understanding.
But I never got, honey, I didn't get, I knew it had flipped. I got why it had flipped. But I honestly, until you walked me through that, or not me, but the entire world, but me, because I was on your channel listening. I never thought really and understood why the license plate was back by the beach. Get me?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So then I'm thinking, but I did. So I'm so tickled that you did that for me and for all of us, But here's the thing. And how you were like, well, somebody backed it in. So yes. I don't want to get conspiratorial or anything like that. But it did occur to me as I was dropping off to sleep thinking about this. I thought, well, I don't want to say, I'm not saying Nick the tow truck driver, but I'm saying, could a tow truck have backed it in?
Sure. Of course.
So that leads me to going, this is such a weird case. I don't even know what to know anymore.
Well, yeah. And welcome to Watts Island. Okay. I don't know if you were around during the Chris Watts days.
At tail end.
Yeah. So it got crazy just like this. And I believe that these special, unique cases that have mystery and the cops get so proprietary with all information and they're not letting any type of information out. That is exactly the environment that people rush in and fill the void with all these fantastical tales.
Yeah. And so it's because it's so spatial.
Yeah, it's because it's so spatial. Yeah. So, yeah. So I really think that, the law enforcement, I think it would do them well to do some thought, to engage in some brainstorming to figure out how much information they could actually put out to sort of feed people's need for knowledge, for information, but still retain enough that they could meet that goal of how do we tell the authentic people who have actual fact from people looking for 15 minutes of fame or mental illness. How can we tell the difference if somebody really does come up and say, hey, I'm the one that did it, or I did it. So I don't think it's necessary for them to hide every teeny tiny detail. I think that's what drives all these crazy conspiracy theories. Uh-oh, I think we lost Dr. Latina. Why do people create tales and drama and thrive off of others' broken hearts and bullying? Well, why are we not getting Dr. Latina? If you can hear me, Amy, your audio is not working anymore. Yeah, I can see where you keep turning on and off your microphone.
Hello.
I hear you now.
It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's a storm coming in here.
Yeah, that can happen. Or if somebody's trying to call you on your phone, it'll happen.
But
it'll happen then.
That could be. So what I was going to say, I don't know if you caught what I said, is I'm going to call it hysteria, but it's not really hysteria, but to quell the, let's say, escalation of ideas and concerns about this case, I don't even think that law enforcement would have to say very much at all. I think all they would have to do is come out and validate, literally say, we want to let the public know that we hear that you're concerned. It is an unusual case. We're working doggedly, behind the wraps or whatever. And please stay tuned. Something like that.
I agree 100%, Amy. 100%.
I mean, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So, okay.
At this point, all they would have to do is come out and say, we appreciate AWP. Yep. We have been in contact with Nick, the tow truck driver, and we are moving ahead with our investigation. And people would put so much of this nonsense to rest.
I totally agree. And I think that's really, I pray that that's what they do.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I want to move, I don't want to cut you off on your own channel, but
no. I want you to talk.
I do want to honor the original reason that you invited me to come up. And that is that I don't know if it was Truth Seeker or somebody else asked, like, what would be other, either medical and or psychiatric conditions that could cause odd thinking or odd behavior. I think that was sort of, I'm paraphrasing.
That's it. Yep.
And so I wanted to just can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good.
I muted my microphone so that the birds don't disrupt you.
Oh, I love those birds. But anyway,
thank you.
It's like one flew over the cuckoo's nest. But anyway, there's so many, and so I wanted to touch on a couple of physiological ones and a couple of psychological or psychosocial ones.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
So I'm, as you know, I'm a family practitioner, and I am board certified, just in case somebody decides to come up and go, she's a fake doctor. No, I do have my medical degree, and I'm on LinkedIn. If you all want to look me up, Dr. Amy Salerno with an R in the middle, because there's another Dr. Amy Salerno. So I'm perfectly fine with people looking me up, but not knocking on my door to my home. But I am a real doctor. In real life. So listen, I do a lot of psychiatry, and I really firmly believe in what I call the biopsychosocial model of medicine, which is where I trained at the University of South Carolina. That is the model we trained under. And
absolutely. And I did the same thing. My clinical work is all biopsychosocial.
Yes.
That's
and then
exactly right.
They also, because it was the Deep South Bible Belt where I went to medical school in South Carolina, they also included the spiritual. And so it was the biopsychosocial spiritual model. And and it's not yes, but it wasn't forcing, like proselytizing a patient. It was more really trying to, it was something that now we call sort of integrative medicine or integrative psychiatry, but they were way ahead of the curve. It was more like, tell me about your cultural and spiritual foundations and beliefs, and how can we understand you as a human being,
Absolutely.
including that, because otherwise you're
Yes.
missing this big chunk.
That's
But
right.
anyway, I'm a little going off track here. So anyway, my point is that I have seen both the medical basis of strange thoughts and behaviors, including paranoia, etc. And I've also seen, bio. I forget the bio. That was bio. Psychosocial, spiritual, including I have a lot of patients in the community I've served for 30 years that have dipped their toes into something called santeria or brujeria, which is in Spanish like kind of a little bit of witchcraft. Not because they believe in witches or whatever, but they have, and sometimes they will come back to me and they'll be like, and it unlocks. And see, I mean, if you're not a believer in God, that's fine. But if you are, then which I am, then I also believe in evil, right? So when people go to these curanderas and the person will cast a spell, tell them to drink a potion, whatever, then they come back and sometimes it's unlocked some of their past traumas, and it just overwhelms them, and they become not possessed but oppressed by this sort of wave of reliving of their trauma.
Yeah.
So so that's where I think the spiritual / cultural does fit in.
I think she went away again. She's getting another phone call. Okay. So what she's talking about how people's worldview, their preconceived ideas or their expectations of what may happen, that can often be very, very powerful in actually bringing about some change, accepting some of their suppressed ideas or memories, maybe. Go ahead, Dr. Latina.
Can you still hear me now or no?
I can hear you now, yes.
Yeah. I did get some sort of like not a weather warning, but you know what I'm saying? It comes in, and that's what I think does.
It does, yeah.
Unclick me to you.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just wanted to bring up that piece, and I'm not going to delve any further in that right now. But I wanted, in terms of the life phases, I'm going to go with, let's say, 3 biologicals real quick as touchstone cut points.
Yeah, that's good.
One, because I did a lot. I don't know if you know this, and I don't expect you to, but in family medicine, I did my fellowship for a year in high-risk OB and maternal child health up in Rhode Island. And then I did 6 years of almost exclusively obstetrics and pediatrics as part of maternal child health, including C-sections, blah, blah, blah. And I was a psychiatric consult liaison because, psychiatry, as you know, is so primitive. I hate to say it that way in comparison to your profession of psychology. So back in the day, 25 years ago, I mean, they asked me to be the psychiatric liaison. I'm like, okay. But I mean, I've had the training. But I found, my whole point is that in the postpartum period, I'm giving you an example. We know that from the American College of OB/GYN, that the psychiatric postpartum period is not the 6 weeks that we call the postpartum period physically for a woman. The psychiatric postpartum period is actually 1 full calendar year from delivery because of all the hormones that can act on the brain. You know this far more than I. So I would see people who might historically have had a proclivity towards being hypomanic. I remember, I have 2 patients I specifically remember. One woman had been extremely high functioning her entire life, but she had a proclivity, really was kind of a bit hypomanic her whole life, but she was able to control it by getting good sleep, etc.
Correct.
But immediately postpartum, within 2 weeks postpartum, she came back for a postpartum check, and she was like, I saw and thank God for family medicine, because we do like a Beck inventory for postpartum, and we take the whole family approach, so we look at the bonding of the mom with the baby, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm talking so much. I'll try to sum it up.
No, you're fine.
But she said to me, I saw a bird this morning on the baby's crib, like on the the bar of the crib. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I was like, and it was like, oh, when we were in a rural area, I thought, well, maybe a bird.
And you thought, were your windows open?
Exactly. So, I'm trying to take the whole person in, including their climate and environment. And I was like, and I said, and tell me more about that. And she's like, well, the bird told me to murder the baby. I'm like,
God.
oh, no. I didn't say, oh, no.
I know.
But you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, this ain't no open window.
Right.
So, the bottom line is she really was between a postpartum depression with psychosis, and she kind of got pushed because of her sleep deprivation into a manic psychotic episode. And thank God she came forward. We got family to take care of the baby. We got her on medications, back on her sleep cycle, and she ended up being a great mom. But that's an example, and it's very elusive. It's not just, oh, you're postpartum and your hormones are flying. But there's so much. There's the cortisol, the estrogen,
Yeah. So what about the connection between liver dysfunction and a psychotic event?
Oh, yes. So then I was going to say, so then we see that, like, if somebody is a chronic alcoholic, especially when they're going through withdrawal, right? And is that what you're talking about, or no? A physiologic?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one episode. I had a young college student that was developing a liver problem. It was just an organic problem. She wasn't an alcoholic or anything.
Okay.
And basically, what looked to be like an adjustment type disorder just decompensated into an actual psychotic event. And once we transported her to the hospital, they figured out what was happening. And within 3 days, she was as lucid and back to normal.
Was it her ammonia level? Do you know? Because often the ammonia level is what causes that.
Yeah. And it happened to her so quickly.
Yep.
Like, she was perfectly healthy young lady. And it was really one of those, it happened so long ago, but it stands out in my mind because it was such a shock,
And I do think, but the thing is, sometimes we'll see people also with acute pancreatitis, and it can be alcohol in young people, alcohol induced, but they're not a quote alcoholic, but they go on a little college binge, and then they get wacko liver functions, and then they can become psychotic. So there's so much out there. I think it's a mystery that we're all, and kind of a mirror actually. Life is mystery.
Being disrupted again. Hold tight. She'll be back, y'all.
Sure.
Has anyone seen this case covered on their local news? I have not, Jacob. Only saw one thing on Fox News. Hey, Strawberry Wine. Okay, I think Latina's back.
I'm back. I don't know.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
Well, you are spatial. And there's lots of people that need to talk to you. So you get locked in. They want
to commit me.
You are in trouble, girl.
For little points.
So everybody. So this is the point. The question was asked: are there other explanations that someone might do things that are odd, or is it always schizophrenia? But can the brain decompensate into strange perceptual organizational problems that it is explained from a different perspective than schizophrenia? And what Dr. Latina is telling you is yes, that the hormone changes that come about after the birth of a baby, the body's trying to regulate and get back onto an even keel in a non-pregnant state. Those dramatic hormonal changes are enough to create a real psychotic event, which we call postpartum depression, but there can be auditory hallucinations, sometimes visual hallucinations, liver function, pancreatic problems can all be the catalyst for a psychotic event. So you can't, it's not, what's your opinion, Dr. Latina, about disagreeing with someone's opinions and then claiming that it's mental illness, it's real mental illness that's causing someone to have the opinion they're having?
Well, I would say that there is a boatload. I mean, I've just been on YouTube for 2 years in true crime, right? As a visitor for the most part. And so I'm only speaking to this portion, this segment of YouTube, but I think there's a boatload of lack of civility and people
Yes.
and people throwing out these I mean, I think we have to be people are just very loose with their lips in terms of saying, well, this is because of this person is a drug addict and they have to be
Yeah.
blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
well, how do we really know? I mean, we have never met this person. I mean, and that's why my first little super chat to you today, I don't expect that you saw it, but it was when you were deep in your explanation of things. I said, I think you're giving impressions. It's when you were talking about Aiden. I don't think you're giving a diagnosis. And as you said, you can't, because you never met the guy. You never evaluated him formally.
Right.
But I do think it's valid as a professional to give an impression. But I think when people just jump on somebody and say this person's nuts or whatever they're going to say, I think it's really wrong. It's to me very unethical, and it's not kind. And as I kept writing in my little chat on your chat, it costs nothing to be kind. It costs nothing to be kind. It really doesn't. But I also think that, and you were talking about Ryan, it also costs him nothing to be kind.
Thank you. 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I mean,
which is why, let me say this too, now that you're there. So he is displaying bad behavior. Okay. He is displaying bad behavior. And if I come out and start accusing him of being a drug addict or mentally ill or a criminal fraud, then I am displaying bad behavior.
Right. Well, then it's a vicious cycle, you know?
Yeah. At some point you have to stop the crazy cycle that you get into with all the finger pointing and and just try to get on a rational track of discussion and just move away from the bad behavior.
But I do have to say, as some of the folks in your chat were saying, is that and I also said this, I don't think you can absolve the bad behavior, especially if somebody, regardless if they're as 20, 30, or 60, if somebody is a professional in their real life and they have a big channel, that doesn't absolve them from, being accountable for their bad behavior.
No,
and I don't mean legally, like I'm going to drag you into court. I just mean, even if somebody's calling somebody the F-bomb, that doesn't mean we have to come back at somebody and go, yeah, and you are too. Or, you know what I'm saying?
No, exactly. Which is one of the reasons why I've tried to state my belief that bad behavior is bad behavior, period. But I'm also not going to get sucked into the madness and start demonstrating exactly the thing that I take issue with.
I think, to be honest with you, and I am going to name one other creator other than you, whom I respect because she's above the fray, and that is Tiffany from Zav Girl. I have never, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't believe I've ever heard her drop an F-bomb. She's better than me because I'm like, I have a mouth like a trucker in my house.
I have my moments, Amy.
I really do too. But I've never heard her nor you ever drop an F-bomb or tell somebody, you're maybe you even when you were upset the other night, you were just like, what's wrong? I don't get it. You were like, you're a dumb whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I think for me, it's extremely refreshing to find channels, and Tyler Feller is another person who
he's a good guy. He's
got a strong personality, and he gets angry. I see it. He's getting a little flustered when people are calling him out or whatever. But he really tries to, maintain the high road. And I just hope to God that folks like you and Zav and Tyler can begin to really turn the tide of this kind of culture that we have on the streets of YouTube.
I'm going to tell you, Amy, it's strong. It is. It's so the idea that you're part of a tribe and you have to believe like I believe. And if you're not going to believe like I believe, then I'm going to unsubscribe and I'm going to leave. It's so powerful. And I understand this need for affiliation. I understand this need, it's basic identity in terms of I want to be part of a team and, go team. But people have gotten downright angry with me because I have refused to engage in this, Ryan, you're wrong, you're crazy, you're whatever, that I've refused to do that because let's just use this. If I jump in and I begin going after Ryan Upchurch, how is that any different than him going after who's somebody that he went after that he didn't like? Xana May or Ichtmel. So he went after them. He disagreed. He said, well, what they're doing is fraud. So then if I start focusing on trying to prove to everybody how Ryan is committing fraud to sell more records or whatever this psychobabble said, why am I not different? Am I not the same as him doing that? But if you end up in that kind of dynamic, you're not even having a conversation about the facts related to Kali Rodney at all. You've just gone down into mudslinging land. So people, get really mad because you refuse to get into it. But at the same time, if you do get into it, then you're going to get the backlash there too. So I've just tried to stay on topic with what I want to talk about. And people feel like I'm supposed to have a certain belief system or engage in, a witch hunt, they're going to be disappointed because I'm not doing a witch hunt against anyone in any circumstance. I'm not going to do it. We lost Dr. Latina again. Hey, Pink, thank you so much. Yeah, y'all, while we're waiting on Dr. Latina to come back in, please, if you're enjoying the conversation, the algorithm will share the video if you hit the thumbs up. Also, if you've been subscribed, you want to check and see if YouTube has maybe unsubscribed you. I don't know why they do that, but they do. So you may just want to hit the subscribe button, hit the unsubscribe, hit subscribe again, and then hit the bell that says all notifications. And then if you want to leave a message under the video, I would be honored and I would be appreciative. So though the question of, is there other things that could happen that would create unusual behavior, thoughts, and ideas? Yes. Sleep disruption, according to the United States Air Force, you're not going to make it more than 90 hours without developing some real psych problems. I think she's back.
I'm back.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. No, I one thing I will say, you were talking about, how do I say this? I mean, I don't think that engaging in the tit for tat takes you as a creator anywhere but down to the level of dirt, and I'm glad that you're not doing that. And what I really, can you hear me? I don't even know.
I can't. No, I can hear you.
I can't see you shaking your head or anything. So maybe I'm talking into the air.
I can hear you.
No, but what I really liked about AWP is that he was on with Ryan on a live. I don't remember where, but he was. And I could see that somebody, I think it was on the Popcorn Channel or something, somebody asked him about, no, I don't know where it was. It doesn't matter. And asked AWP, well, here's Ryan. I don't think you've met. And I could see that whoever it was kind of trying to get AWP to say anything. And I thought that AWP eloquently responded by saying, yes, I've heard of Ryan and my manager will meet out to you. And everybody's got a right to their own opinion. And he disengaged from the tanglement. Do you know what I mean?
I thought it was perfect.
It's very elegant. It's a very elegant response.
Yeah.
There was one other thing before I go. No. I wanted to say that I've seen a lot of teenagers, the girls especially, and it is there's something, a PMDD, like premenstrual dysphoria, basically.
Yes.
Disorder. And I do have a lot of patients, not even adolescents, but there was even a nurse many years ago that came to me, and well, actually she didn't. I will say that she showed herself, let's put it that way, on a unit that when she was on her period, that she became enraged. And then she told all of us that were, the staff people, oh my God, last night I took a frozen chicken and I was so angry. At somebody in the family, I took it and threw it against a wall and broke something. And she said, this is many decades probably, before we understood that the menstrual cycle can be very, very powerful on a woman's emotions.
Absolutely.
And she described, but fortunately she sat down with us and a couple of us, and she described that this, we figured out that she was on her period or around it. And, sertraline can be very beneficial, or Prozac, whatever. And I do have a lot of patients that not that I'm a pill chaser or popper, but if it gets to the point where a woman is getting so like you like to say, dysregulated, then sometimes a small dose of an SSRI during or before or around the menstrual cycle can be very helpful. So that's another example of a physiologic thing. And this woman was high functioning. There were no like deep-seated schizophrenia, bipolar, nothing like that.
So let me understand. So you're talking about just giving some sertraline just in the immediate days before the period?
Yep.
Wow.
Yes. And if somebody's already on, let's say sertraline, or usually it's sertraline that I give, but it can be like Prozac, whatever, and SSRI. Then sometimes I'll double up just for the days, like 3 days prior to the cycle and 2 days into the cycle, and then I bring them back to baseline. And it really does. It really does help with regulation, mood regulation. So I'm not saying everything is biologically based, but I'm speaking to the question that one of your chat people asked probably an hour ago now.
Yeah. No. That's why I wanted you to come up, was to talk about other things that can act on the body that would create psychiatric symptoms, hallucinations, or perceptual anomalies or whatever. So that's exactly what I want to talk about. Yeah.
And the last example I'm giving you is for many years I had in recent years. I like to say very general because I'm not, I don't want to get too specific, but an adolescent whom I was treating, and this individual just at nighttime, this is an example of a visual hallucination, just at nighttime in the bed as they were going to sleep, this is what they told me, that they would look around the room and light would be on, or the light would be on, and they had a visual perception that the wall was with the wallpaper was rolling down from the top to the bottom.
Yes.
And initially I was like, damn, is she getting like, is there something emerging? So I called my mentor, who is a psychiatrist, and I discussed at length and went through the case. And what she said to me was that in her many more years of experience, she's been my mentor for probably 20 years now, this fantastic psychiatrist. She said this is very common in adolescence. We don't know why. It could be the hormone. Who knows? We don't really understand. You might know better. But she said it's usually associated with anxiety, severe anxiety.
Yeah.
And the adolescent will get a perceptual disturbance. But and this kid was not psychotic. It was so focal. And so sure enough, thank you to my mentor, I went back to the patient and said, let's unpack what is going on when you're in the bed looking around trying to fall asleep. And sure enough, it was around the school failure and issues around academic problems, blah, 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 blah. And that the anxiety was coming up and bubbling over when she was quiet in her room just before sleep.
Yeah, because there's no distraction, right? I mean, that's one of the best ways to manage anxiety is using distraction. So that's why a lot of this will emerge when when they first lay down for bed.
But here's my question to you, though, and as you obviously know far more than I about the brain. And what I don't get is, what is it in the brain that's allowing her to literally have a visual hallucination? What is going on at that chemical level? Maybe you can tell me.
You mean chemically what's creating the perceptual?
Yeah, or neurologically. I understand that happens, but I personally can't tell you where in the brain that's happening and why is it happening.
Is it GABA?
It could be.
Yeah. It's not unusual to have perceptual, let me think of an example. Okay. Bipolar. So somebody having a manic episode where you've got like norepinephrine is spiking and GABA, dopamine is high, can see fluid pouring out as blocks. Like
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. That was
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That was a real situation. The person didn't know they were in a manic state until they began pouring soup and it was coming out like blocks of ice.
And the brain is fascinating.
And the person, this is what's so curious about it. The person said that as they poured the soup out and they saw the blocks of ice, or not ice, but it was blocks of soup. It was the color of soup, but it was in cubes. And the person said, this isn't normal. So at the same time that the perceptual anomaly is there and they're witnessing it, there is logic and fluid intelligence that's saying, you know, what's normal, what's not normal is clearly not normal. I need to get to a hospital. So even the problem solving was intact as the perceptual part was disrupted.
Interesting. Yeah, it's fascinating. Isn't the brain amazing?
It's crazy. So I don't know if you've heard of Louisiana School for the Blind. They're kind of like the flagship for people that are blind, training how to live in the community. They've got this big program. It's wonderful. Anyway, so part of my work there, I found out that with different types of blindness come different behaviors, obviously. And one of the coolest thing I ever saw was someone who's blind, completely blind, but you can put them on one end of the classroom and have like an obstacle course set up through the classroom. And if you're talking to them or you play a noise or something, they can walk from one end of the classroom to the other end of the classroom and not hit anything. So the optic nerve, the eyeball is working, the optic nerve is working, but that part of the brain that turns perceptual information into meaning doesn't work. So they are seeing, but they don't know what they can't name it or communicate about what it is.
I think my daughter was very interested in becoming a veterinarian. She's 23 until she did not do well in math, and then there went the veterinarian career. But she's one of these. She's read everything on, she's got veterinarian books, blah, blah, blah. And she's told me that thing that you've just described is akin to echo something in dolphins.
Echolocation.
Yes, thank you. Echolocation. Yes. So somehow that the optic nerve there's something with the ears and the eyes that happen that it's like echolocation rather than a visual thing.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. It's so interesting. I love the brain. It's so cool.
Listen, thank you so much. I don't know. People are probably like, how the heck is this advancing the cause of Kylie or whatever?
No. The title today is paranoid schizophrenia.
Okay. So, but
so my position is that you've got a lot of people coming out with some crazy ideas. Now, Ryan Upchurch has been fairly rude. He has said things that were shockingly unusual. I'm trying really hard to be accurate here.
Right. Just a non-medical, non-psychiatric adjective.
Yeah. So just unusual to the extreme, aggressive. He's oppositional. He's defiant, and people have gotten very uncomfortable because they're protective of Kylie's family and any family in general that would be grieved. And a lot of people are lashing out, and they want other creators to do the same. They want someone, I think, to lead the charge, I guess. Psychobabble kind of took up that mantle on Zab Girls the other night and was fairly direct, and he was pretty critical about Ryan Upchurch, but then he really, really got in the dirt when he was talking about the supporters of Upchurch, saying that they, were dumb and they were idiots and they were morons, and it just got really, really bad. And so he's saying that Ryan has paranoid schizophrenia. Well, that's just not true. It's just no. If you'd have said brief psychotic or whatever, maybe, but no. And then said that Ryan was engaging in a fraudulent action to sell additional records.
Oh, I think I saw that where an article came out and all this.
Yeah,
I think I did. Yeah.
So both of those statements that Psychobabble said now open Psychobabble up to slander charges by Upchurch. And so that's my whole reason why I'm just not going to get sucked into the madness and have these public conversations about all this. Because where does it end? At some point, don't we have to get back on the road to a conversation about the unusual peculiarities of the Kylie Rodney case?
Yes, we really do need to redirect our focus.
I think so. And I think if people are not watching his videos when things go off the rails, then I think people will adjust. I think if Zab Girl is looking at her analytics and he goes on one of these rants. Now, I'm going to tell you, I haven't seen him rant on her channel. I've seen him rant on other channels, but I haven't seen it on his own channel, but not on her channel. But as an example, if she's looking at her analytics and she sees that right there where Ryan starts getting nutty and being rude and whatnot, all of a sudden everybody leaves her channel. Guess how many times she's going to tolerate the rant? That's going to completely change. But now she's not doing it. Please don't freak out. I know that he's not doing that on her channel. When he goes up on her channel, he's really polite. He's very, appropriate.
Well, I think she sets the parameters. She and Bella.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's very clear that they rein people in, which it's their channel. So yes.
Yeah.
But now one thing I will say, and this is simply something that Ryan himself said. So I will make a statement off of something he said a couple of times in his own videos a couple weeks back. He said he hadn't slept. I haven't slept.
Yeah.
And he was you could see that he hadn't really showered and he was just looking disheveled a little bit. And if he had asked me for any advice at that moment, I would say, sleep deprivation, like you said about the pilot, sleep deprivation for anybody.
Yep.
It will cause, really, it fuels. We know in bipolar, for instance, I'm not calling him bipolar, but we do know with mood disorders that lack of sleep deprivation, poor sleep hygiene, fuels or fuel. I don't know if it's plural or not. What I just said, my subject, but those things fuel. I'll put it that way. Hypomania and mania.
Thank you.
And even with my child, who's very open about her ADHD, and so I have permission to say this for my older child, who's 23. She's not 13, 23. She knows that if she doesn't get on once her sleep hygiene goes, she gets off kilter, she gets mood dysregulated, she gets unfocused, impulsive, blah, blah, blah. It's sort of a snowball effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's incumbent, for all of us, myself included, to try to take a step back in all these cases. And instead of trying to pigeonhole people with a diagnosis or, they're a psychopath or they're this, is to look at instead, let's look at the interesting behaviors. And then when somebody says, I haven't slept in days, think, well, I hope you get some sleep because you'll feel better.
Yeah.
And that's all I could really say about him because I have not evaluated him. But we're
okay. Let me ask you a general question.
Yes.
Just in theory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you run across someone with a superior intellectual ability, top 2%, okay?
Uh-huh. Yep.
You run across someone
like you?
No. If you run across someone who has extraordinary artistic ability, expression, what would be the first type of diagnosis that would pop in your head?
Oh God, you're testing me now. Like in terms of the old-fashioned axis 1, 2, 3, or what?
Well, just in what state, in what mood state are people most creative?
Well, you generally mania is what I've experienced and what I've read. How about you?
Mania, 100%. Throughout history, our greatest scientists, our greatest artists, all are dealing with a level of mania. Even some of the biggest CEOs, they're walking around with that bipolar 1 diagnosis, and they recognize that when the mania or the hypomania hits, they're getting busy. They're at their most creative. They come up with their most brilliant ideas, and then there will be a cost, which will be depression.
Yeah.
Elon Musk has been open about some of the challenges that he faces in going from working 5 days straight in the middle of this supercharged creative, experience. And then he's going to be in his, empty ranch all by himself for 3 weeks, just trying to recover. So, there's too many conditions that can go ahead.
No, and that is why I brought up, with the permission of my daughter, an example of adult ADHD.
ADHD, 100%. Yeah.
There are times where people have looked at her when she has not been medicated, or when it's more the lack sometimes of not even the it's lack of structure where she might get out of that. And and she's talking a mile a minute, and people are like, is she manic? Is she bipolar? I'm like, stop it. I don't say that to them, but we are so easy to pigeonhole people, and that's why I think it is dangerous, because there are minutes.
Thank you for saying that. That's the whole reason I want to do this live. We cannot involve these big mental illnesses just because somebody has a difference in opinion or they behave in a way that's rude and it's not appropriate. It doesn't mean there's mental illness.
No. And what's really interesting is when I trained 30 years ago, I don't know if you're old enough, like I am I'm 61, that it used to be the axis 1, axis 2, axis 3. And so the axis 2 was, what they now call the clusters, right?
Yeah.
And so you may have trained under that, I don't know. But I always think about axes because it's easier for me. It's a better scaffolding for my brain. But, we were really almost in psychiatry in my training, and even in family medicine, we were forced to sort of, honestly, at the end, when we were coming up with our diagnoses, it was like, what's axis 1, what's axis, and you were almost forced to put an axis 2. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is like an undeveloped adolescent. I'm not quite ready to say that they have an ingrained personality disorder. But in the past, probably 15 years, in my practice experience, and with my mentor, who, the psychiatry mentor, she always says to me, let's stay away from pinpointing somebody into an axis 2 or cluster B yet. Let's step back. Don't put something on a 15-year-old that they're an antisocial. Let's wait. Let's see. We can describe it. Why don't we just describe it? The person's defiant. The person's oppositional, whatever, rather than saying that person has an oppositional defiant disorder that's, you know what I mean, right? And I guess my challenge to myself, and I guess to the folks maybe that are listening to your channel here, is let's step back and let's use adjectives. rather than diagnoses.
Well, Truth Seeker says, I diagnose him with disrespectfulness and
There you
downright
go. Yes, but that's what I'm saying. I totally agree with her or him, because I put coarse and not civil. I mean, there's so many adjectives out there.
Yeah.
And the truth seeker, the truth be told, is I find in my own raising of my own children and in my practice with my especially young patients, but even my older patients, sometimes they are, especially I have a lot of addiction patients that get really inappropriate, where they get ragey, ranting. They're like, I'm going to kill, whatever they say. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
What am I going to do? Say, you're an addict. And because you're not, no, I don't go down that road with them. What I do is I say, your behavior is inappropriate.
Yeah.
Right?
I think self-indulgent is a good,
self-indulgent.
That's a good description. It's just it's like, really and truly, if you stand back and observe without the emotional response to the out, it's like a self-indulgent temper tantrum. Yes. So yeah.
So anyway, that's all I really have to offer. I will also offer up since I seem to often become a sacrificial lamb on these streets of YouTube, I'll put myself out there as a sacrificial lamb again, and say that especially early in my career, when I was I was on every other night, okay, for 6 years. So I would work all day, and then every other night, up all night delivering babies, right? Yeah. But this really went into. But that was in my 30s, into my 40s, because I remember taking my children, I'm a single parent, to the hospital, even to the psych ward at 2 a.m. when one of our patients fell and I had to staple up their scalp, and I had to bring my babies out there. What is my point? I'm going to tell you, I learned early in my career, and it was because of my OB mentor, obstetrician, when I was doing a lot of, he noticed that after I was up all night, every other night, by Thursday morning, he was like, I would start to cry very easily. Whereas usually I'm a very not strong person, but I nothing would really at work make me cry, and I'd get kind of like tearful. And he's like, this is just not like you. So he came to me and he said, you know what? I think you deserve a day off on Thursday. See no patients. You're coming off, like 4 straight days of being on call and working. Take the day and recalibrate.
Yeah.
And I have done that for almost my entire career. Even when I put 80 hours in there, I've always got a protected day.
Staying in contact with the real world, keeping some perspective, getting your rest, eating healthy. It can have such a profound effect on our mental health.
So I guess what I'm saying is I don't want anybody to feel that I'm lashing out, so to speak, at Ryan for his saying that he hadn't slept for days. I myself know that my emotions, I'm the more tearful type if I get tired. So I don't really go on rants. I'm more like, whatever. I know that I myself can become dysregulated that in an aspect.
Sure.
So it's a learning opportunity for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
Hey, listen, thank you so much.
No, I appreciate you coming up. It's always so interesting. You've got so much to say, and I'm grateful when you decide to come up and talk with us.
Well, I'm grateful because I feel like people like you allow me to have a sense of affiliation, even though it's a virtual friendship. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely. It's still fulfilling and rewarding, though,
yes,
right?
It is. But I'm gonna hop back into your chat.
Okay, thank you so much for coming up.
Thank you, Jules. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. You have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, so to answer your question, yes, there are conditions, there are situations that can really disrupt perceptual organization. They can disrupt behavioral control, thought, reality testing can be dismantled in a lot of different ways. And a primary is sleep. So the sleep research, you could do a whole semester course on sleep problems because there's that much research that's out there. But to be clear, when they're doing the sleep research, they will they've gotten so exact. So the process of sleep, you go through 4 levels of sleep and then you're in REM sleep. And throughout the night, you're going from like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then you will turn around and go back to stage 2, and then stage 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, REM. You stay there for a little while, and then you come back up, 3, 2, 1. And so the levels of consciousness are changing throughout the sleep cycle. You don't really get very much REM until after midnight. The early morning hours is when the bulk of your REM sleep is happening. The early evening, when you first fall asleep, unless you're sleep deprived, the first part of the night when you first fall asleep, you're primarily staying in stage 2 and 3. And then getting into stage 4 and REM is really that deeper level of sleep where you're building retrieval paths for new memories. You've got cellular growth, cellular repair. And so the levels 3, but for sure levels 4 and REM are really, really critical areas of sleep. Now, it is possible and often that people will only sleep from stage 1, 2, and 3, and then back up to 2 and 1, and 2 and 3, and 2 and 1, and they can be deprived of adequate REM sleep, or that all important stage 3 and 4, where you get cellular growth and repair. Well, the Air Force research has spent a great deal of time and money. They've made a huge investment in understanding sleep and how it's going to affect their soldiers or pilots. And so they'll actually watch people, they'll put them in a sleep study, and they'll watch them, and when they'll let them go to stage 1, stage 2, and maybe even into stage 3 a little bit, and then wake them up, which starts them, they quickly go from 2 back to 1, and they start over again, and they watch, and they'll let them go 1, 2, 3, and then they'll wake them up, and then back to 1, and then 1, 2, 3, and wake them up. And then they measure that periodically over that 24, 48, 96 hour period, they're periodically testing reflexes, perceptual organization, the semantic memory, immediate, remote, interrupted memory. And they're watching to see at what point the different areas of the brain begin to break down. Well, after 96 hours of being deprived, stage 3 and 4, people will begin to demonstrate rheumatoid arthritis because the cells are not being repaired. There's no new growth. And so the damage builds up over time. So there's a great deal of information, but it is not unusual to have visual hallucinations or auditory hallucinations when you're sleep deprived. So yeah, you can, if you have been awake all night, or you think you've slept, but it's been very shallow sleep and you haven't gotten into those deeper levels of sleep where neurologically there's a great deal of activity. If you've done that several nights in a row, it's highly possible that you'll begin to look at the world in a really skewed manner. We talked about bipolar, we talked about mania and hypomania. We did not talk about OCD. Let's talk about obsessive compulsive disorder. People that are experiencing compulsions, their compulsions can often have a perceptual component where they'll hear something. Maybe it's their own voice, maybe it's their mom's voice. People, I know people like to look for signs. Okay, oh, well, I lost a loved one in death, and now I'm looking for signs that they're still here, signs that their spirit is here. Well, I think in the immediate point, and this is a point that Dr. Latino was talking about, where it's really critical to understand the culture of the patient. not your own culture as the doctor, but you need to understand the belief system that this person grew up in. You know, if you're going to talk to somebody who grew up in the Caribbean or even South Louisiana, then you're going to have to take into account that this person may have some really, really strong belief in the spiritual realm. And that can be very powerful in terms of the belief system that people can have that can be actually manifest in behavior. So you do have to really understand and know the cultural implications of what people believe. And so when I hear people talking about looking for signs that their loved one who's passed away is still here, in the beginning, I think it's okay. I think it's comforting. I think it gives you a feeling of control. But if 2 years later, a bluebird is still coming to talk to you and it's your loved one, it's probably time to go to a doctor and get some medication, get your neurotransmitters back, the hormones back in order, and move on. Because you're not going to have a bluebird. Your dead father or mother is not going to come back in the form of a bluebird or on a telephone or anything like that to talk to you. It's magical thinking, and it is indicative of a thought disorder. So which just means that the neurochemistry is disrupted, and so now we get to the next part of the question. If there's multiple ways that unusual or chaotic thought behavior can be displayed, what do you do about it? Well, there's multiple ways of getting your neurotransmitters back in order too. Of course, medication's very powerful. And the new class of medications, Trintellix is one of the new medications that's really showing a lot of good result right now with very little side effect. I think the literature shows that's one avenue is medication, and it can really help get somebody to a level that they're able to attend well in therapy and then begin to change actual health behaviors. So physically they can get themselves into a healthier place, and then they don't have to be on the medication any longer. So, but if your symptoms are not so bad that you're, or immediate, acute, that you require some form level of medication, then making sure you have good sleep hygiene, you're getting good restorative sleep, making sure that you're getting, basic movement every day. So if you've been really sedentary, getting up and going for a 20-30 minute walk, not fast speed walking, not jogging, not lifting weights, just a simple walk around the neighborhood for 30 minutes can be really, really profound in lifting yourself out of depression or managing anxiety, especially like trait anxiety. So walking daily, not 3 times a week, not 5 times a week, but daily, just getting out and walking or going for a swim or whatever is very, very helpful. Dark chocolate can be helpful in kind of getting some of the neurotransmitters realigned. Taking a hot bath, 30 minutes in a warm shower, warm bath is really, really relaxing because of the amount of serotonin that's released. Engaging in healthy behaviors has the additional benefit that the brain says, yes, this is what we need to do more of. And the brain gets more efficient. You can turn it around. The brain is either spiraling up or spiraling down with these various mood reactions. And so, adopting healthy daily behaviors that don't have to be big and profound. You don't have to be a professional weightlifter or running a marathon. You can just do some small, consistent daily action. And that can go a long way to keeping your logic intact and keeping your thought, your reality testing accurate. Those are things that are important. ADHD, again, it can look really chaotic. people with ADHD can say things that seem really illogical, but it's not because they're having hallucinations or anything like that. It's because their brain has a tendency to focus on individual details instead of the big picture. With ADHD, you tend to focus on individual details with rapidly shifting attention. And the net effect of that is, if you're a hunter and it's your job to see the deer, camouflage by focusing on very specific details with a rapidly shifting point of attention, you're going to be the one most likely to see that camouflage deer. So in a time of survival, you would be the most valuable person in the community if you had ADHD. But in a culture where we've, put kids in boxes and make them sit in rows and sit in a desk 6 hours a day, which is completely illogical from a child development point of view, having ADHD is painful and looks disruptive. It's not. It's just a different person with a different genetic endowment that in another day and time would have been, would have kept you alive. Let's see. My daughter was... So trauma changes the brain. There's a great book, Body Keeps the Score. Early trauma doesn't even have to really be early, actually, but like we have PTSD, right? You have grown-ups going to war or being RAPD, who develop changes in the actual construction of memory retrieval paths and whatnot. But for early trauma, those memories are snapshot memories, meaning they have a direct one-way fast connection between the trigger and the trauma memory. So it's very fast. There's no way to control the reaction. And the person, the memory is so intensely ingrained that, you're immediately kind of thrown back to that moment. So if you were in Afghanistan, you experienced deep trauma, then maybe you hear a certain sound or something, and then immediately you feel as if you're back in the desert or in the caves. And it can take a little bit waiting for, your various neurotransmitters to calm themselves to get back in touch with your surroundings and your reality testing. And then you are finished with that episode. I don't know. What is that, a video, Becky Roberts? A chat with ghosts? What I don't know what that is. Tell me what that is. Is it like a movie or? Okay, so it's on her channel. Yeah, so let's see. Brian's mother had a live speaking of near-death experience. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll have to look at that. I didn't even know she had a channel. I didn't know what, yeah. Yeah. So neurodiverse, so he has two brothers. See, I don't do this. I don't like go into like celebrities' lives and learn all about them. She talks about, oh, she has 4 sons. And so they all have ADHD. I'm according to his own mother, I don't know if he has ADHD. It's not my job to know. She has issues with being sedated, of course. I don't, oh, wow, we have gone way off into something else. Yeah, Mike, getting your sleep messed up. Oh my gosh, it can really change the way you think. I'm a professional drummer. My ADHD actually helps me succeed and continues. Drumming saved my life and gave me focus. Thank you, Julia. 100%. Yeah. So Julia gives a really great, an actual even better example of what I was trying to explain, like with the hunting. Having ADHD, you don't have to look at that from a medical model. You don't have to say that ADHD is a disorder. It really is almost more of it's just a special way that the brain is processing information. It's just a different perceptual organization. She said they're all empaths. Well, but the neurodiverse, that term, trying to remember. That's like it's just a sociologically appropriate way of viewing individual differences in a more accepting manner, rather than trying to pigeonhole people into a specific box of normality and then outside of normality. It chooses to take the array of human experience, behavior, or conditions as a spectrum. And so as you get to the further ends, it's considered more inclusive of normality. That's the best way to say it. I think I don't hear that term very often though, because that's more like I think more like maybe philosophical, maybe social psychology, maybe sociology, kind of cultural community type stuff. But that's not really a term I would use. But that's what it is. That's what it is. It's just saying exactly what I'm describing. It's just a descriptor for, just because someone is different, it doesn't mean they have a disorder. That's let me just say it, in the vernacular of the peasantry. Yeah. Wizard of Oz. In the vernacular of the, neophyte, it's just because someone is unique, they're not, doesn't mean they're abnormal. Why? What do you mean, Barbie? What is it? I don't believe that, but you choose what you feed. Energy flows where focus goes. Allie says the double down, the anti-hero. It all can work in a culture that has given up on establishment, the double down. Oh, Allie, do you want to come up on panel and talk about that? That's really interesting. Hey, rabbit dog. Rabbit dog with ADHD. Allie, do you want to come up on panel and tell us about energy work? I know nothing about it. The number of videos of his live seen that focus on being strong and independent, thinking for yourself, they far outweigh the negative. When you look at two people like Ronnie, Miro, Saname, how they come into play, then the townspeople not having normal reactions, then corruption and cover-ups in your brain tries to organize chaos. Yeah, John, I agree. I have frisson, which is a reaction to music that only 50% of people have. I get chills and my body physically reacts to music. Allie's gone quiet. I guess she doesn't want to come up and talk about it. Okay. All right. So I guess if Allie doesn't want to come up and tell us about what this idea that she has. Yeah, it's gotten weird, Yvette. Yeah, girls with ADHD have a different presentation than boys. Pretty much. Not all. There's no, obviously there's, okay, so Allie doesn't want to, okay. That may be true from her perspective. It would likely be for someone. Whoops. I don't know what this means, Allie. Y'all have lost me in the dust. Okay, Jacob says, the number of videos of his I've seen that focus on being strong and independent, thinking for yourself, they far outweigh the negative. Okay, and then Allie says, that may be your perspective. It would likely be hard for someone right now. You sure you don't want to come up, Allie? Yes, it does, Heidi. Yeah, so this is exactly I don't know, Allie. It just seems like you're really forceful. You're forcefully opinionated about all the people talking about this whole Kylie Rodney case. And I think I think it'd be interesting to hear your perception. That's all. That's why, you know. We grew up without labels and survived. We did, Dameron, and we survived fairly well, right? We were just taught how to behave, and you either, did what you were supposed to do and treated people with respect, or you got in trouble. It was pretty simple time. All right. y'all are fun. Let's see. So where am I at now? Let me see. Without big pharma, nothing a good whipping didn't cure. I'm not a big believer in the whole spanking thing. That's not my. I prefer to figure out what I want them to do, and then I reward them for doing it. And then people that are getting rewards are far more likely to do what it's going to get them a reward. Let me look at what did I want to talk about just now? Let's see. Yeah, but let me point something out there, Jacob. That's the way I look at it. What you just wrote. I would never go on YouTube and claim someone is not real unless I had 110% proof. Correct? So I'm with you. That, in fact, that was my justification that I gave for Nick, the tow truck driver. I said, why in the world would this guy go on with Adventures with Purpose, 3 million subscribers, knowing full well that the video is going to get you views all over the world? Why would this guy go up and make these extraordinary claims that are only going to be ultimately revealed as lies when the tow truck company says BS? That never happened. Why would Nate, what's it, Nate? No, Nick. Why would Nick put himself in that situation? Think about it. Why would he do that? I am of the opinion that he wouldn't. I mean, he seemed like a rational fella. Now, if he had been a little odd, if there seemed to be some problems, then maybe I wouldn't be so quick to say that. But he seemed like a regular, normal person who would have the recognition. If I do this interview with these guys that are basically, interrogating me on camera, I'm just going to be revealed to be a liar. So I don't think he would have done it. I just don't think he would have. So same thing with what Jacob just said. Jacob would not accuse someone of inventing a witness unless they had proof, unless it was true. Now, my understanding, and trust me, I've watched a lot of minutes trying to figure out what everyone is talking about, because it's gotten crazy, y'all. This thing has gotten nuts. But it seems like one of the explanations. Notice I'm saying not the right one, not the wrong one, not the factual one, because we don't know any of this. It's gotten so nutty. We have no way of knowing what's fact at this point. But one of the explanations that I thought might have some credibility, but still doesn't, okay. let me just give you my opinion. This is the best way to do it. Okay. Because I don't know what all these other people saying things and doing things. I don't have any way of knowing what's real or not. Right. It looks like to me that Rando Ronnie is the biggest problem. To me, in my calculus, Rando Ronnie is the big problem. I'm talking about where this whole Ryan Upchurch rude attacks, problem is concerned. Rando Ronnie to me is the heart of the problem because he's the guy that comes up on channel, Ichtmel's channel. He's the guy that comes up on Ichtmel's channel, tells this fantastical tale of being at the party. He wasn't at the party, but his cousins. Cousins were at the party with some friends. They were older. They witnessed Kylie. And then he says the big coup de grace. Do y'all know what the coup de grace is? Do y'all remember the coup de grace? No? So the coup de grace for Rando Ronnie was saying, oh, well, Kylie was drunk earlier in the day. That was thank you, Allie. 100%, right? And you're just like, what? What are you talking about? And then when he tries to walk it back, because the reaction is just like, what the hell? And when he tries walking it back, then he comes up with something like, oh, well, like at 8 or 9 o'clock, they saw her. No, they didn't. That's not when she arrived. So Rando Ronnie is the problem. And the fact that Rando Ronnie called into Ichtmel's channel, I think that then fueled that conversation that Ichtmel is trying to invent views and subscribers and clicks, right? And then that ran into Zanime as a Russian agent spy. I don't know. I've lost track of the whole narrative. I don't get it. It's foolish. It's silly. Okay. It's silly. But I don't think Rando Ronnie is silly. I think Rando Ronnie is probably one of those guys that the cops should be finding and questioning till the cows come home. There was never any information that Kylie was supposed to be the designated driver, Damron, unless I missed something. I haven't seen that. Denise. So Denise says they've pushed the drunk issue to make it look like an accident. And you have to stop and ask yourself, where did the information come from that Kylie was a drunk driver? Kylie being a drunk driver originated with Sammy Smith in multiple interviews and then followed up by Mags saying that she was drunk. And the problem with Mags saying that is that Mags wasn't there. So her word doesn't matter. So we're still with Sammy Smith. And then we get Rando Ronnie, who is the one who corroborates Sammy, the Sammy narrative that Kylie was very, very drunk and intoxicated. Boom. There's no stretching of the truth there, Allie. So because Allie is very focused on fact, I want to know where her opinion is on what I just said. We get the narrative established, controlled by Sammy. She makes a comment. You get a couple of kids that say, yeah, she's drunk. Not even there. And then it's ultimately corroborated. But no, I'm not saying that. I'm asking you. And then the drunk story is corroborated by Rando Ronnie, who goes even one step further and says she was drunk earlier in the day. So in terms of dealing with fact, Is that something you can work with, what I just said, Allie? It doesn't matter if you know her, Allie. Is that how you're making your decisions, based on how you feel about people? Or are we just dealing with like what we know happened? Okay, thought that was weird. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it is weird. So the Rando Ronnie thing is very weird. And I think that when people said Ichtmel knows Ronnie, and they were manipulating people to increase views and subscribers. That, I think that was the moment in the progression where Ichtmel kind of got sucked into the story, this crazy storyline. I don't think Ichtmel should be involved in this. I think it's weird. Oh, but Allie, we're not in a courtroom. You're not in a courtroom. There's no hearsay. We're not in a courtroom. We're talking about Sammy Smith herself on multiple interviews said exactly that. There's no denying that. She said it. Rando Ronnie on live with Ichtmel, he said it. There's no denying it. He said it. There's no hearsay. We heard it directly from the horse's mouth. And we're not in a courtroom anyway. Living Lake Time. Please watch and give your impression, please. I am disturbed with this information. What? I don't know what you're talking about, John Courtney. She was too adamant about Kylie being drunk. Tyler has worked with teens, and he said they will typically downplay how drunk their friend was rather than magnifying it. Weird that Ichtmel and Zanny took up for Ronnie. Why? Well, yeah, but now we don't know why. I mean, we don't know. And that's where you get into all this speculation and all these crazy stories, is when people begin to speculate why the weirdness happened. I think it's pretty important right now at this point in time. I think it's pretty important that people are willing to at least admit to the weirdness. I mean, we've all kind of disintegrated into these finger pointing, accusational type stuff. But can we just get back to the basics, which is, wait a minute. You may not like where things, the insanity, the Chris Watts Island crap has descended to. But the reality is, Sammy said it and Rando Ronnie said it, and that's that. It is strange what they did. X is in the kayak in the exact spot, and Ichtmel is on the phone with her when that is happening. It's no such thing as coincidence. No, I don't think I misunderstood, Allie, because you were really I felt like you were really firm in that you wanted me to take a direct stand and go after Ryan Upchurch. You did. And that is not something that I'm going to do. I'm not going to join in with this whole scientific skeptic crap. I'm not doing that. It's wrong. And he's no better than the people he's going after. I am not doing that. I don't have any interest in being a part of a gang. I just want to have discussions about interesting cases. That's what, and I'm not going to be a part of a non-productive type of witch hunt like that. Nope, not going to do it. All right. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way, Denise. A lot of people. The whole point of Ronnie's story about his cousins was to establish how drunk Kylie was. Perfectly well said, French apple tart. That was my intention. That's my impression as well. Yep. I don't know, Diane. I've seen people say that in chats. I didn't see it. I could go, I've got the video. I saved it, but she removed it from her channel. So she clearly doesn't want people looking at it. But I guess if you wanted me to look at it, I could look and see, but I just don't. I don't have any interest. It's a non. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. If she's a person of interest, the cops will have the video. They'll be looking at her. That's, I agree, Jen. Yeah. All right. Okay, people, I gotta go. You guys have been awesome. This has been a really great conversation this afternoon. And it's Monday afternoon, which is crazy, right? Diane, maybe I can put it up in I'll do a reaction video to it, and I can put it up in the member section. If you want me to do that, I can do that. AWP says they only release 10% of the tow driver. They have absolute conviction he's real. Yeah, Akita. And I have faith in AWP. I believe them. When SF was coming out with all that nonsense, my faith in AWP never wavered. No, their reputation is everything. They're not going to mess it up. They're not going to mess it up. Yeah. Thank you, Full Moon. Exactly, True Seeker. Okay, everybody, I got to go. You guys have a wonderful afternoon. I've appreciated spending time with y'all. I appreciate, everybody. You guys were awesome. There was no arguing. There was no fussing. People just said what they thought, what they believed, and it was respectful. And y'all are great. Y'all are wonderful. So I appreciate y'all. Really, I do. I hope if you have not subscribed, I hope that you will. Maybe check and make sure you haven't been unsubscribed at some point. I'd appreciate a thumbs up if you enjoyed any part of the conversation. And as always, I really love reading your comments. So I hope you'll leave me a comment or two. Okay. All right. I will be back. Me and Arnold. See you later. Have a good afternoon.